Mhm. Good morning, everyone, here in Glasgow at COP26, and good morning to everyone following us on the live web stream. My name is Ivar Stevenson. I'll be guiding you through this morning's discussion on the topic of green shipping and also on how hydrogen and ammonia can assist in decarbonizing and enable the decarbonization of the shipping industry. We have a distinguished set of panelists with us today. But let me first put this in some context here on what is the transport day at COP26. The maritime transport sector emits about 940 million tons of greenhouse gases annually. That accounts for about 2.5% of greenhouse gas emissions a year, which is a big issue in itself. And I guess more worryingly, if nothing is done, that is set to increase by something between 50 to 250% up till 2050. So then it could account to something like 17% of emissions, according to certain estimates. So clearly, something needs to be done, and thankfully things are being done and being worked at. And I think the solutions do exist and are in development. And we'll hear today from some of our panelists from both research, from the trade organizations and industry about what is being done. So I'm delighted to introduce the first speaker of the day. She's the Secretary General of the Zero Emissions Ship Technology Association, or ZESTA for short, and her name is Maddie Mclean. So if we are able to get Maddie on the Zoom link, we should hear from her very soon. Are you there with us, Maddie?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
That's great. We can hear you well. So I just wanted to hear in terms of the different solutions that are out there and the technologies that are being developed. I've seen you see ZESTA is like a Lego set where no matter how you put together the pieces, they always add up to zero. So that sounds like a good introduction for you to tell us what ZESTA is about and the work you do.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, so we're an international trade association. We represent technology providers and projects that are true zero emissions at point of use on the vessel with minimal upstream impact. So wind propulsion, hydrogen from all the way through the supply chain to hydrogen technology on the vessel, and maritime batteries and certain efficiency technologies that will really make a difference in eliminating the fuel requirement. And this is really the combination, and this is the whole point of the Lego set analogy, is that one of these technologies isn't going to get us there. So, for example, a zero emissions vessel would use a combination of hydrogen fuel cells and batteries, and balance the power requirement between those. And by adding wind propulsion, it allows you to reduce your onboard energy needs, therefore reducing the quantity of hydrogen required, reducing that volume issue, which is always the issue that we come back to with hydrogen, but also would allow you to capture energy from the environment. Now, there's an old quote: the ships used to leave port with no energy on them at all, and they acquired all the energy they needed at sea. This same energy is still out there, and we can still capture that, and we can still use that. So by harnessing the power of the wind, we reduce our onboard energy requirements, but we can also bring energy back into the ship's energy system. And I think this is a really important piece of the puzzle that a lot of people are missing out, is actually capturing direct renewable energy while underway. So this can be done with wind propulsion, with a trailed prop. It can also be done, for example, capturing the movement, the role of the ship. And interestingly, heavy weather then becomes our friend. These by capturing the energy from the environment, we actually stabilize the vessel at the same time. So it's stabilization techniques that are actually capturing the energy and bringing that energy back into the ship system. And the reason I go on about this and make it so important is because people think we're really not ready with these technologies. And the hydrogen fuel cells at 3 megawatts, or greater than 3 marinized hydrogen fuel cells at greater than 3 megawatts is TRL9. It's market ready. The storage, the onboard storage, the onboard systems are TRL9. The bunkering technology is TRL8, but 9 being the highest level, TRL8 being ready for market, but not actually dispersed into the market. The hydrogen production, we're looking at, Chile by 2030 will be producing 3 times the whole fleet's energy requirement in green hydrogen, and that's estimated by external experts from McKinsey to the Japanese government to be available at $1.5 US in the middle of this decade. So yes, we are ready. We can achieve true zero emissions. What we're needing is the regulation that protects that space and allows the finance, the investment that's poised and ready to enter the sector to move. And I think that's a really important thing to mention on Transport Day, is we really need our global governments to align on strategies that will require drastic and immediate reductions of the emission of greenhouse gases. If they put in those regulations, we're here with the technology.
That's great, Maddie. Thank you very much for that intro. If you can still hear me, just a question to follow up. You did say, what's holding us back? Is the regulation? Is there a specific, a wish for what the politicians need to deliver today or this week at COP from Zesta?
Yeah, I mean, what we feel is really going to make a difference is an aligned strategy, a MRV, a monitoring and reporting. We've got something coming from the EU. We've got the US and China talking about similar measures. And what we need is something on a global level. Maybe it's not a global initiative, but it needs to be an aligned strategy. So where it's the same everywhere, it's not chopping and changing in different places. And I would also encourage governments to really get behind the levy that the IMO is suggesting, the carbon levy that the IMO. I think that we're well on the way to having a very clear agreement at the IMO, but it requires the individual governments that make up the IMO. I mean, it's a UN organization to say yes, to make the compromises necessary so that we can get an agreement on that and get it in place within the next 18 months.
That's great. Thank you very much, Maddie and Zesta. So next up is SINTEF, Europe's largest research organization. And joining us there is Dr. Nils Røkke, who is an EVP at SINTEF. And if you could describe this, we've heard a little bit about the industry's overall both ambitions and the technologies out there. You've looked at specifically on hydrogen, both as a fuel and an energy carrier, so including ammonia. If you could describe to us the readiness of the solution and where the research community stands in that.
Thank you, Bud. And I wish we was the largest RTO in Europe. We are not. But we are a major RTO in Europe and definitely the largest in Norway with 2,000 employees. To your question, I think this is really about the distance you're going to and the frequency you're going to ports, which kind of solutions we will see. We know, for instance, in Norway, we've been really pioneering the electric ferries. So I think there are 65 or something in operation or soon to be put in operation. And that works well with the battery technology we have today and the charging technologies. And we know that's going only one direction. It's going to be more capacity and larger charging currents. Then there is the biofuels, which also has the potential, but there you really need to know the LCA. Does it make a sense in the total value chain of using biofuels? And my concern about biofuels is really that there is the need for biomass in all kinds of sectors, and everybody wants this. So there are some limitations in terms of what you can source for this. And then you move on to batteries, to hydrogen, as you mentioned. There is the first ferry operating now, the Hydra ferry. Although sourcing hydrogen from Germany, I think, so it will develop over time, which is well suited for those distances where you have a problem serving that with batteries today. And then you move into the international shipping area. So I could also fast ferries and stuff like that, where you can also use hydrogen, and there are projects underway on that. But when you move on to international shipping, you easily come into hydrogen carriers. And what we see today is really that ammonia will play a major role in that space. And there have been really very encouraging development in terms of the ability to burn ammonia in a controlled manner. I'm a combustion engineer by profession, so ammonia at that time was seen as something only the Chinese burnt ammonia at that time, like 100 years ago. And but that also puts a lot of effort and expectations to the infrastructure and the production of ammonia. Say that if you look at international shipping, that this will be the dominant, maybe 75 to 90% of the market, something between 2035 and 40. You need to scale up by large amounts. I think today the production capacity of ammonia is about 200 million tons per year, and you need to go to about 1,000 or something to cater just for international shipping. And that is 5 times what we have today. And that means that you need to produce ammonia from hydrogen, from blue and green hydrogen, for energy purposes, which is really not what's happening today. I didn't mention synthetic fuels, and that is because this is a troublesome area, I think, because you really need to know that the LCA holds true, but this is actually a zero or close to zero technology, which I'm not quite convinced about. Yeah. I think I had another. Yeah, you mentioned 2.5% from shipping and from ship transport. That is the challenge is a bit like the same for air transport, because it's about the same emissions which are from the air transport. And there you're also pondering about what kind of carriers would you have. We have quite progressive policies in place in Norway for this. By 2040, all the inland flights will be zero emission. That's the target. And there you will come into the technologies with Meda was talking about here. I mean, you will have combinations of batteries and fuel cells and ammonia possibly also there, and in a very clever integrated manner.
So that's great. Thank you, Niels. Just one question. When we do talk about hydrogen and hydrogen production, and you mentioned blue and green, I think there's been a debate going on this year specifically about the color coding of hydrogen production. As I'm being told, hydrogen hasn't got any colors, but we apply that to them because it describes how they're produced. But in terms of getting emissions down, could you share your perspectives on blue versus green hydrogen, and perhaps briefly introduce what is the difference?
Well, very important, I think, is to do the whole LCA analysis of the production of hydrogen from renewables and from natural gas That's what we're mainly talking about there. It could be oil as well. I mean, or coal in principle, but let's focus on natural gas. And natural gas with CCS. And we've done several projects funded also by the European Commission, which is benchmarking hydrogen production in terms of footprint versus the emission intensity of the electricity used. And well, we could cut a very long story short, is that as long as you are keeping the upstream leaks in the natural gas value chain low, like below, say, 0.1% or something, blue hydrogen is very compatible and competitive with the green hydrogen. And if you're using from the grid to produce hydrogen, you're far worse off than blue hydrogen at the present mix of electricity in Europe, and I guess also in the world. So when from Zesta here saying that, you know, there will be a lot of green hydrogen available in Chile, yes, I really hope so. But I hope that they will use the electricity produced from PV, that they will use that also to decarbonize their power production.
That's great. Thank you very much, Nils Røkke. Thank you, Sintef. Okay, so next up, we'll hear the perspectives of the industry, because we did talk about, you know, these projects. Some are underway, some are under development. So let's get, you know, as concrete as we can. And for that, you know, I've got with me Stein Nestvold, who is head of policy and sustainability at Aker Clean Hydrogen. But I guess, Stein, before we get started, we want to show a quick film, about 2 minutes, explaining one concrete project that we are working on. So while the tech guys set that up, you know, go reach your popcorn and have a look at this.
Listen, it's now or never. We need renewable energy to reduce emissions. As we don't have access to renewable energy everywhere, we need good energy carriers like hydrogen and ammonia so that everybody can get access to clean and reliable energy. With hydrogen and ammonia, we can achieve fantastic things. We can make shipping and other industries zero emission. We can even make sure that every society, even those without a proper power grid, can receive clean and reliable energy. At Aker Clean Hydrogen and Verana Craft, we are, among other things, trying to make the Arctic zero emission. In Berlevåg, we have access to energy from one of Europe's most efficient wind farms. Here, we are building one of the world's first factories for the production of green hydrogen and ammonia. To make hydrogen, you only need water and electrical power. By extracting nitrogen from the air and adding hydrogen, you get ammonia. The ammonia is cheap and easy to transport, and it can, for instance, be used as fuel for engines and in power plants instead of natural gas, diesel, and coal. The surplus of oxygen and heat from the factory can be used in local industry, everything from fish farming to vegetables. The ammonia from the factory is loaded onto tankers and then transported to the consumers. Our partners, Grieg and Wärtsilä, are aiming to build the world's first zero-emission tanker that even runs on green ammonia. The ship, named MS Green Ammonia, will transport the green ammonia to the consumers emission-free. Clean and reliable energy for everybody.
Yes, green power and clean fuel for everybody. That must be the goal. Here at COP, we are talking a lot about hard to abate sectors, and Aker Clean Hydrogen is actually going to make that transition easy. We are a company set up to industrialize green hydrogen. It means develop, build, own, and operate green hydrogen plants. Our stretch target is to reach 5 gigawatt within 2030, and we have a good start. We have already many exciting projects in the pipeline. We built on Aker's heritage to build efficient modular plants and over time to cut down the cost and maximize the yield from the production. In green shipping, we are talking about many complex issues. First, producing the green fuel, transporting it, making the ships technically feasible for green hydrogen. We in Aker, we engage with partnership to optimize the complete value chain. It's not easy, but we are on a good way to achieve this. Norway has a very long coastline. We really need maritime hubs where hydrogen and ammonia is available. We are not only establishing the ammonia hub, we are establishing the whole value chain. We are already on the way with the first one here in Berlevåg, far north, 700 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. We can actually decarbonize the Arctic with this project, both shipping, but also make the small communities, which is today depending on coal power. We can replace that with ammonia-based power production. Today, the Norwegian government just recently announced that they would like to phase out the coal power at Longyearbyen, and we are actually on the way to do that with this project. Let me show you briefly how we work on the value chain. In Berlevåg, we have access at Rakkovaara to one of the best wind resources in northern part of Europe. It is these fantastic wind resources that is going to be the basis for producing the ammonia in the hydrogen ammonia plant in Berlevåg. But it doesn't help to have the green ammonia if you do not have the ships that can use and the engine that could use the ammonia. So we are in a cooperation with Wärtsilä that is developing the engine technology together with Grieg, and this year we are testing this in the real conditions in Norway. The unique thing here is the maturity of the project. The feasibility study was already conducted in 2013. Last year we produced the first kilo of green hydrogen in the pilot scale, and I guess that is the first green hydrogen that have been produced north of the Arctic Circle. Developing the hydrogen business is a question about creating partnerships through the whole value chain. This presentation is not about promoting single companies. But I have to say, without partners like Grieg, Wärtsilä, and Store Norske, we will not be in the position to secure green ammonia can be transported emission-free to those who need the ammonia. And the demand is there, it's present. The market is clear that we want green ammonia now. And large well companies like Store Norske, Color Line, Hurtigruten, Posten, they have all reported they need volumes. So far, we have a demand for more than 3 times of the capacity at the plant. The plant is in the phase 1, planning to produce 100,000 tons of ammonia. And how much is this? If we look into the emission reduction of those 100,000 tons, we are talking about 200,000 tons of CO2 reduction. That is 4% of the emission from the shipping sector in Norway. And that is only one project. The nice thing here is that we plan to modularize the project, so we have prepared for a doubling of the capacity for the future. If we also look at the picture, this is it's not only hydrogen ammonia production we produce here. We produce heat for Berlevåg, for the heat for the industry park. We also produce a big amount of oxygen that could be utilized in the fish farm close to the Berlevåg ammonia plant. So in a way, we are creating a circular economy here with a lot of side effects. And it's not just the customer who wants the plant built. The whole society wants to have this factory so as soon as possible. Let me emphasize 3 elements that needs to be in place to speed up this transition. And it's all about confidence. We, the industry, we need to be confident that the market is there, that we are able to sell the ammonia when the factory is open. The customer and the shipping market needs to be confident that they can get the ammonia when they need it and where they need it. And the whole market needs the confidence that the alternative cost of fossil fuels are high enough, so it's lucrative and profitable to transfer into green fuel. We are totally depending on more stricter regulation among the authorities, more stricter regulation on emissions in order to make the transfer to green fuel more easy than today. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Stein. If you will stand for one more minute, you're not done yet. No, I think it's great to hear, a concrete example of a project that you're working on. And I understand Aker Clean Hydrogen have several projects in the portfolio in various stages of maturity. But if I put you on the spot, because these projects are nice and they're really good on a sketch, but it's when you take the decision to invest that things really start to happen. So if I can ask you, when do you think Aker Clean Hydrogen is in a position to make an FID, a financial or final investment decision?
Yeah, it's not a straight answer here. We are working now hard to secure the off-takers. We are working on the power utilities companies to make sure that we have the power available when we need it. We have 2-3 projects that we are now working more in depth with, and I would say that through next year we will take the first FID.
That's great. Thank you very much, Stein. Thank you. Okay, now on to our final speaker this morning of this session. And last but certainly not least, we are joined by Nikolai Grieg via Zoom.
Listen, it's now or never.
And there we have Nikolai. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning. Great to see you. Now, we already heard and seen Grieg Edge mentioned here in the presentation by Stein, but perhaps you could explain to us. I understand, or I read that Grieg Edge is the innovation hub of the Grieg Maritime Group, but perhaps if you set that in the context of what you do and also what your ambitions are for a green shipping future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak. So I work for a company called Grieg Edge, which is then part of Grieg Maritime, a shipping company based in Bergen, Norway. We in Grieg Edge focus on business development related to the maritime green shift and energy transition. We have over the last few years been working a lot on various green ammonia related initiatives, and we have projects on the production side as well on the distribution side, which was just mentioned here by Stein. We are also developing zero emission ready concepts for short sea shipping markets together with cargo owners, also here with green ammonia as an option. I'll go a little bit into the topic of today in terms of ammonia and hydrogen, and I guess it's no surprise that we also see that there is a need for new green fuels. We believe that hydrogen or a hydrogen carrier such as green ammonia will be critical for the shipping industry to meet its requirements. As of today, I think our options are limited. We don't have a good enough or scalable enough carbon capture technology, or even nuclear is not available or acceptable yet. So we think that green ammonia, perhaps in particular, is what will be needed in the coming years. For my quick intro here, I'll focus on 3 key points. One is that if we want sort of an immediate reduction in emissions from shipping, we think it's so important to have a stepwise approach. There's a lot of talk these days on zero emission solutions, but the fact is that we've seen over the last few years that very few of the cargo owners are willing to participate in the energy transition. They are not willing to pay for more expensive fuel, and those that do commit are usually depending on subsidies or tax schemes. And we think the problem with some of these subsidies is that the project has to be zero emission. And while it's great that we see capital allocated to new technologies, we think we should have to take a step back from zero emission, at least for a little while. The next 10 years should be about reducing our footprint considerably, but not necessarily removing it completely. simply because this will be too expensive, and as a result, it will be difficult to get enough traction for it. In the long term, zero emission is where we need to be, but here and now we have to keep in mind that 30, 40, 50% reduction is also a significant contributor, especially when so many more will actually then be able to adopt new technologies. And these are technologies that are actually available. And that brings me on to my second point, multi-fuel or dual fuel engines as a means to use the infrastructure and technology that is already available. What is the most cost-efficient way and reliable way forward for shipping? In Grieg Edge, we think flexibility will be key. In a fuel-efficient vessel, we need to be able to use green fuels where it is readily available, while at the same time have the flexibility to use fossil fuels in areas where the infrastructure is not developed for a shift. And I think in this way we can partly bypass this never-ending chicken and the egg discussion on fuel availability versus technology. If we can add the flexible solution, we can develop this infrastructure and the propulsion technology side by side, make use of what we have today. And we think in particular this possibility of blending in green ammonia into internal combustion engines together with fossil fuels is definitely an emerging market that will happen. Because this will be a way to gradually reduce emissions as we move forward. Lastly, not directly related to hydrogen and ammonia, Maddie touched upon it. The cheapest energy we use is definitely the one that we don't use. So energy efficiency needs to be a key focus. By that I mean we need to continue innovating on new hull designs and optimization. We need to test and develop energy-saving devices such as foils and not the least wind-related systems. And we need to optimize our trading patterns. We should also work on incentivizing fuel efficiency on a larger scale. Very few shippers are willing to invest in new tonnage, but there should be incentives out there. Possibly not for 100%, but also for those that are willing to invest for 50% plus reduction. Lastly, I think cargo owners and shippers need to work more closely together in the partnerships in order to make this happen. Both sides to a charter party contract should be incentivized, and partnerships will be crucial to de-risk the projects and meet the needs of tomorrow. So if we can aim for a combination of these, I think we can quickly but stepwise decarbonize shipping, be on a better track towards net zero. At least I think this proposition will get us there faster than the current IMO plan, which seems an obvious target. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nikolai. That's valuable insight. Now I put Stein on the spot to give me a year. So if I ask you, when do we see the first, hydrogen ammonia vessel in commercial operations? If you can give a year, what would be your estimate? And you can, I guess, answer it inside or outside the Grieg group.
I guess that depends on Stein and Aker Clean Hydrogen. We need to have the fuel availability. But for Grieg Edge, we are together with Aker developing MS Green Ammonia, which will distribute green ammonia and also run on green ammonia. We expect to have a approval in principle in the first quarter of 22. That means we can start building towards the end of next year. And that brings us probably to 24 for delivery.
That's great. Thanks very much, Nikolai. So that means that real progress is also not that far away. We're ready to get going. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to all our panelists, both Nikolai and Maddie, who joined on Zoom, and to Nils Røkke and to Stein Nestvold, who joined us here in the audience. I think what remains for me is to say thank you very much for those of you who joined us here in Glasgow at COP, and thank you to everyone who followed the live webcast. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing us to join. Have a great day.